Okay, we are live. This is part of my journey, episode 18, and my special guest is going to be Maculate. At the moment, he is just finishing off his stream, and then he's going to raid over, but we're going to kick it off with a couple of 45s while he gets ready. But anyway, let's go. Big up DJ Tanner. Welcome, Raiders. This is part of my journey, episode 18. I am Criztoz, creator of 45 Day, DJ with the original 45 as head of the live streams for the 45 Kings Collective, talk show host. And tonight, my special guest is DJ Maculate. Just going to wait for him to set up and then we'll get him on. Big up Tanner, big up Jerry, Cookie Monster, Grizzly Meadows, Maurizio. More effing cowbell. And yes, a 45-day interview. Maybe more like 2 hours. Big up Don Champ, big up Heather Raffle. Hey TK, how you doing? Good evening, Double P. Good evening, JBats89. DJ Clairvo, my man. Scotty Boy. Welcome in, everyone. If you're new to the channel, hit that follow button. Maculate's just come off a 2-hour event. A warm-up for this. We're just waiting for him to set up, readjust, and then we'll get into the chat. It's alright, I've got plenty of 45s. Have a look at that, Don Champ. So Don Champ, I did catch some of you DJing at a party. Looked like a great time. If you don't know them already and you're not following, hit that follow button for Don Champ Sound. A big inspiration into playing 45s at 33. Okay, I see a green screen. I think we have Maculate in the house. Okay, there we go. Can you see and hear us okay, Mac?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you all right. I'm just going to make sure I've got the echo cancellation blocked off. Give me 2 secs.
Yep.
Let me rearrange my decks. Okay, we should now have the echo cancellation off. Hopefully you're not getting any echo now when we talk.
Testing.
Test, 1, 2, 3. Is that better? Cool. Well, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. It's an honor to have you on the show, and killer set for the last 2 hours. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I think a couple of months in the making. I think you asked me a while ago. I'm really excited to come on.
Yeah, we're going to be talking. If you haven't seen the show before, this is called Part of My Journey. We discuss various different topics, mental health. We discuss DJing. We discuss Twitch. We discuss online communities. In your case, we're going to discuss some other areas such as video edits, becoming a partner, and Twitch, meditation, sleep, keeping hydrated, all of that sort of cool stuff. So let's start from the very beginning, what's called sort of DJ origin stories. So from the very beginning then, when was the first sort of musical influences you had? Was it family? Was it friends? And what sort of music were you into back then?
Great question. I think there was always music around our house to some degree that I can remember. I think the earliest I can remember is, classic things like the Beatles and classic rock and things from those eras. I remember really getting into music probably in middle school. and I think getting into more alternative rock to begin with, bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rage Against the Machine, some of my earliest favorites. And then at some point, I got introduced to hip hop. I think it was like Cypress Hill and some old school. I think actually through Red Hot Chili Peppers, they had such, particularly for their early albums, had a really heavy funk influence and like a hip hop influence. And I think that was sort of like a bridge over to hip hop. I didn't for whatever reason I didn't like hip hop before that, but then I slowly got introduced to it. I think with Cypress Hill and then eventually into some old school hip hop, so like Run DMC and Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash, that kind of stuff. And then eventually in high school, I think I kind of transitioned over and hip hop became one of my dominant favorite genres. And from
Right.
then on, I would just listen to everything. I think it was not too long after that that I really got into funk. And I think it was some of those early influences from Red Hot Chili Peppers and some other ones that I was hearing, sort of the influences from the people that came before them. And it was a George Clinton CD. I think I had George Clinton's Greatest Funkin' Hits or something like that. And then that's what really, I think, set me on my real music trajectory, where everything is kind of has a core of funk to it, of my favorite stuff. And I have to shout out my sister Anna, who was in the chat, hang out with us in my stream. She was definitely a huge music influence for me, introducing me to so much soul and funk and really great music. Her One of her favorite stories, and I know she loves it. I don't know if she's listening, but was relating her to basically the scene in Almost Famous, where the older sister kind of gives all the records to the younger brother. So
Yeah.
there's definitely some of that going on, kind of passing down from the generations. And I think I've passed, some of my music down to my younger sister Jen as well, who's I think hanging out as well. So it's sort of a tradition there. In fact, I played my Almost Famous music video in my set as well. I didn't do that purposefully, but yeah, I think it's a good analogy.
It's good to be able to hand down the music. And you met my daughter ZZ45 earlier briefly before we started the show, and it's obviously handing down the music to her. And yeah, definitely passing down the music generations is very important. We've got a question from the chat already. Who introduced you to Tribe, Biggie, Tupac?
Yeah, so that's my sister Anna, Sunny D Light. So I wasn't looking at the chat. I'm looking at just the video with you here.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's see, actually, does the chat show up? No, it doesn't. Okay, so I gotta.
yeah, yeah.
I'll keep an eye on it. But before Anna even said anything, yeah, I had mentioned my sister. But yeah, as I said, she introduced me to all sorts of great music. Tribe Called Quest, absolutely. I don't know if I can give you credit for introducing me to Biggie. Like Biggie and Tupac, they were out there. But Tribe Called Quest for sure, and that's way better. Yeah. But and so I guess the rest, I don't know how deep we're getting into my musical journey, but like I was, played some instruments when I was younger, but got into drumming in high school, and actually was even getting into more like rapping in high school as I got more into hip hop. But yeah, that's for music influences that we've
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. Rapping sounds interesting. So you're doing a bit of emceeing as well?
I was in high school,
Yeah.
and I think at one point, um, I decided like I didn't have I didn't have a high enough ceiling on rapping. So at some point, I still like to do it from time to time. Other time, I don't really do it much anymore. But I kind of switched completely over to more the instrumentation, and eventually DJing, obviously, rather than the emceeing part.
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously Sam Tweeks, who you know. He had a points redemption where he would get people to pay points to get him to rap every now and again. And he's not got a bad voice. Maybe that's something you can bring back one day.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe. Yeah, I know.
maybe not.
Dunks does it well on the as well on the Funk Hunters.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm out of practice, but yeah, maybe someday.
Maybe someday. Cool. Okay, well let's move into the DJing then. So when did you start? What was your original setup? What were you sort of listening to?
Yeah. So I went to undergrad at University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado, and after my first year out there, I decided I wanted to bring my drum set out to Colorado. I had some friends that were into music. I thought it'd be cool to have my drums out there, so I drove them from Pittsburgh all the way out to Colorado. And I think a couple of my friends had turntables my freshman year. I remember my other friend Charles, who I would end up forming a hip hop group with a few years down the road. He had Q-tips. I forget what it's called, but it was like all of the um, different sketches and animations that were like created after his scratching, and they were synced up together. I remember watching those my freshman year. Very surprisingly, like I hadn't been exposed to a lot of DJing, I think, before I went out to Colorado. You know, being into hip hop, it was something that was natural, but it's not something I was exposed to a lot until I went out there. So I got my drum set out there, formed a small band out there with two friends, with a bassist and a electric guitar player. We would play some parties out there, mostly just jam together. One Christmas, I decided I wanted to get an audio interface for. Um, did I say Q-tip? I meant Q-bert. Yeah, I meant Q-bert. Very interesting tangent. After watching those Q-bert scratching videos, this last year, 3 different times he's done the stream jacking on my streams, which is
Yeah, yeah.
where he pulls up other people's streams and scratches over them. For one of them, I was playing my Crafty Cuts music video, and coincidentally, he had a sample that said Maculate, so he was scratching my name
Oh wow,
over the beat.
fantastic.
So just to have, to go that full
Yeah.
circle, one of my first exposures, I think, to like really DJing and scratching, and then to yeah, and then I got to open for him on Funk Hunters also, or on Funk Raiders after that. Anyway, I got this interface for my to record our band with my drums. I just wanted to be able to get like cleaner sounding recordings for our songs that we were making, and it the interface came with a light version of, I think, one of the very first versions of Ableton Live, as well as Propellerhead's Reason software. And so I was like, okay, what's this? And I kind of set it up, and that really completely changed my whole trajectory. Just this whole idea of being able to like record digital music, MIDI instruments, and being able to take like just a regular keyboard and be able to play virtually any different instrument, and not only be able to record that instrument, but then change the instrumentation, manipulate, and all these different. This was like the most exciting thing in the world to me. So after that, I started getting very much into music production and started recording my own songs at the time. And around that same time, my friend Chris brought his turntables over to my place one time, and he left them at my house for a few days. And I started messing with them, and yeah, that was another thing that just completely clicked. Again, it was surprising that I hadn't really considered it before, being so much into hip hop. um, but I went out and bought some vinyl. I bought, I think it was like a Pigeon John single, who's just like a underground hip hop artist. Even though I didn't have my own turntables yet, he took the turntables back away, and I'm like, okay, now I have like a few records. I'm gonna go out and get some turntables. So I got some Techniques. I heard from friends that they were the best to get. So I went to music store and bought some used. Great thing about Techniques is, you can buy them used, and they're still great. So I started messing around with, mostly it was kind of like putting things on top of the beats and the music that I was already making. So I was buying a lot of
Okay.
like sample records, things like movie samples, um also lots of singles with acapellas on them. So then I could basically take the acapellas, record them, rip them, and put them over the songs that I was already making. Started getting into scratching a little bit, but it wasn't until I moved out to Colorado that I really started DJing. properly, at parties and at clubs. So yeah, that would be the next step in the journey.
And when was this? Give us a sort of time scale. What
Yeah,
sort of years are we talking when you're
yeah,
getting into this?
yeah. So 2002 was when I graduated high school and went out to Colorado. So around 2003 was when I brought my drums out there and started getting into turntables and recording music. It was probably 2006, I think, that for my last year of school, I went out to Shanghai, China, to study abroad. So my major in college was Chinese language, and my mom very rightfully said, if you really want to learn Chinese, you need to actually go out there and live for a little while. But at the time, and really through my whole college experience, even though I was learning Chinese, I was studying journalism and philosophy and some other things. I was like, leave my turntables, leave my drum set, leave like my keyboard, all this for like 3 months. Like, no way. Like, I don't want to do that. But I was like, okay, finally, I thought about it. Like, okay, I'm going to go, I'll study abroad for a semester. And so as I was preparing to go out there, I'm like, okay, how can I still be making music when I go out there? So I bought just a small like portable keyboard to bring out there with me, and also got one of the very first legit controllers that they had at the time, which was the Vestax VCI 100.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, so I got one of those when I moved out to China initially just to study abroad. But I studied abroad for 1 semester, liked it enough that I stayed for a second semester, and then decided to find a job out there after I graduated from college and stayed out there.
Yeah, because I've heard you talk about times in China when you were out there. And how long did you end up spending out there?
7 years total.
7 years. Wow, from one semester to 7 years.
Exactly, and all from I think if my mom hadn't said like you really should be going to I don't know what else I'd be doing with the Chinese degree. I guess maybe working. I would have looked at jobs in the U.S. That was what had me change my major to Chinese language in the first place. Is there was somebody that came into our Chinese class and said there are six-figure jobs for people in the government for people that speak fluent Chinese. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
I don't know if I want to be working for the government or anything, but it seems like it could open some doors.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know if I would have gone there at all without my mom's suggestion. But yeah, it's interesting how small things can kind of influence things down the road.
And how was the culture change? Obviously, going at a relatively young age and moving completely the other side of the world. How did you find that initial change in culture?
There's definitely culture shock. So I had some experience going to China already before that, and that was let's see. So back when I was 8 years old, I think we went to it's not China, but well, China considers it part of China, but they don't consider it part of China. We went to Taiwan for
Okay.
I think 5 weeks when I was eight or so. So I had a little bit of exposure then. And then in high school was starting to study Chinese. Our high school was one of the first in the country to offer Chinese, and so started learning Chinese, had a little bit of an aptitude for it. And so actually and then we went on a trip to China, I think maybe my sophomore year or junior year. My dad is in cancer research and basically travels all around the world for conferences, or at least used to a lot. And so sometimes he would take us with him. And one of those trips, he took my sister Jen and I to China. And so I had an experience with Shanghai and Beijing and Xi'an and some other places. So I had some familiarity when I went over there. And then right after I graduated high school, I had a plan to go and live in Shanghai actually for 2 months in between graduating from high school and going out to college. I think my dad's idea, he had some connections out there and basically got a simple job at like a hospital out there for my friend Ben and I to go live out there for 2 months. So you ask about culture shock. For me, it was like, yeah, I had some experience in specifically China, but also like other countries around the world. My friend Ben, though, he had never traveled outside of the U.S. I think he had not even been to Canada or anywhere. And so we got there, and I think we were staying in like some like crappy dormitory. It was like the sanitation and things were not great. So it was already like a little bit, I think we were going to move somewhere nicer a little bit later. But there was like some things that like I could see on his face. They're already, he was not having it. It was, yeah, it was pretty difficult for him. And then we had dinner one night, and we had, what is it? Chicken feet. So chicken feet are a delicacy in China.
Yeah.
Um, they I joke at the time, like they basically kind of look like monkey hands. Like they're very gross looking. They do not look very appetizing. They have like almost no meat on them, but they're a delicacy there. So they brought these out to the table, and I think Ben tried them or looked at them, and like that was kind of the turning point for him, where he's like, "Yeah, I can't stay here," basically. So
Right.
he decided to go back home.
Yeah.
I thought about staying. Like, I guess I could have stayed by myself, but I think since, the idea was to go out with them, I ended up going back as well. But yeah, for me, it was, the culture shock was not that bad just because it was gradual. And I think that when you go to a big city like Shanghai, which is where I was living, when I went to go study abroad, it's basically like the New York of China. So there's a lot of American stuff. There's a lot of people speaking English and things there. So there's lots of quote unquote shocking things that you'll find. But I think that was part of the excitement for me. It was very, very
Mm.
different, very interesting experience. Sometimes good interesting, sometimes bad interesting, but like always interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my wife spent a year working and teaching in Hong Kong, and she had a great time. But she's describing quite a lot of the things that you're describing as well. There's some good, some bad. It's a culture shock, but at the end of the day, it's an experience. And unless we travel to different countries, we just don't know what's there, and you just
Yeah.
don't know what people like. And travel is very important. If you can travel as much as you can and see as much as you can of the world, if possible. Um, okay, let's bring it back. So you obviously come back to the US, and then is that when you start getting into the sort of VJing side of things, or is that something that you started when you were in China?
No, when I was in China. So after I graduated from college, and decided to stay out there, I found a job at a media company called Soulfire. I think I was looking for things in media or things in entertainment, and found a job there. They were primarily radio. They would broadcast to like 10 different cities across China. Eventually, there was some web. Sides of what they offered as well. But found a job there as a writer. Eventually, they picked me to become a creative director there, and I worked as creative director there. Um, and then eventually, I would leave there to become a brand ambassador at Chivas Regal, the whiskey company, where basically
Yeah.
I was paid to fly all around to every province in China and basically give speeches. I was basically a public speaker, giving talks about whiskey in Chinese, sometimes in English, but usually in Chinese, and then sort of like teaching Chinese people about whiskey and like the history of Chivas whiskey. But then all during this time, basically, and this is kind of like a theme, through most of my life, I would say back to college. Like in college, I was studying Chinese, I was studying things, but like my real passion was always outside of that. As soon as I was done with, class, I was coming back home and drumming or recording music or, doing all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like that was kind of my real life. And I would say the same in China. Like I was basically, I needed to get a work visa to be living out there. Um, so I was doing that, but like my real passion was still in recording music, and then really getting into DJing more when I was out there. Again, I had this VCI 100, and then I convinced my friend Charles. He was the one that had the Qbert VHS that we were watching, of the scratchy animations, and convinced him. I was telling him that I was really enjoying my time out there, and he decided to come out there and do, I think, to teach English out there. And we basically formed a hip hop group called Evil Einstein. So I was the DJ, he was the MC. He's a really talented MC. And we would play around China. We played at music festivals, toured around different places. Um, and after that,
And
I
was that, sorry to interrupt, was that in English? Was he emceeing in English, or was he
I'm
emceeing in
saying
Chinese?
English. He would have he wasn't fluent in Chinese like I was.
Okay.
He learned some Chinese while he was out there, but didn't have the background that I had. So he learned a little bit and would throw some into his rhymes, but yeah, almost all in English.
Yeah, yeah. And how was that? So that was a tour of quite a lot of cities in China?
Yeah, so I would say we mostly played in Shanghai, but we did say some things like we played the oldest running music festival in China, MIDI Festival. Absolutely fantastic experience. We played this other one in Xi'an, which was like a 7-day thing where we would do like 3 performances a day at this thing. It was like a agriculture festival or something. I don't know.
Right.
But it was
Okay.
really cool to yeah, have these big stages. We had a whole like b-boy team that would come out and perform with us as well. And yeah, a few other shows here and there. And then I would also go and DJ some other places, traveling around China, DJing and doing that. There was a club in Shanghai called Logo, I think it was, that we would go to sometimes, and we would perform at. But one time I went there and there was a VJ VJing, and I saw that on the wall, and I'm like, huh. Um, and I remember connecting it back to one other thing before that, which was Mike Realm, who's I think a Canadian DJ, and he had this thing that I saw online one time where he's basically video DJing way before anybody else was doing it,
Yeah, yeah.
and he was scratching clips from the movie Office Space.
Okay.
So I remember seeing that, and I think that kind of sunk in. And I'm like, this is really cool. I had no idea how to do it or anything, but then saw this clip of VJing, and I'm like, this looks really cool. You know, I want to look into this more. Um, at the same time, I saw there was a clip online of these old Charleston dancers, I think Al and Leon, and somebody had taken this old black and white footage where they were dancing to this really slow old jazz music, but they resynced it to Daft Punk Around the World, and it just looks amazing. Like it looks
Wow.
like they're dancing right to it.
Yeah.
Just like completely revitalized the footage. So I think those like 3 things together really started putting gears in my head of like, wow, there's this really powerful idea of taking videos, taking things from other places, and kind of repurposing them for for the sake of like performance. And so I went and I think I got the software that that VJ was using at that club. I think it maybe had a logo or something, or maybe I asked him, which was Module 8.
Okay.
And so I got Module 8 software, and just started learning how to. I just dove in. I think for all these things, it was, and I think for a lot of these things, for people, it's just becoming self-taught. So I just
Yeah.
got the software and just started playing around with it, and eventually started VJing at places in China. Um, and I think in my head, the goal all along was like to do what Mike Realm was doing was to be video DJing, but I didn't have the software or the equipment or anything to be doing that at that time. Um, and then really quickly to finish up, I got
Yeah, yeah.
the software Adobe Premiere, I think from a coworker while I was still at Soulfire. And we had all this footage of Evil Einstein's performing around China. Of Charles, his MC name is One Consciousness, of him rapping all these different places. So we should start making some music videos with this stuff. So I started using Adobe Premiere, and started learning how to cut things linearly. And so like I had been doing everything live for VJing, but then that was when I really started getting into the world of cutting things. Is like this is going to be a set synced thing with this song in this video. So I think that was the last sort of thing that really put me on the path towards actual music video creation, which I got into shortly after that.
Yeah, I mean, we did get quite nerdy on this show, and I used to, when I first started DJing, I was also doing some VJing. I used to use our Chaos and like a little MIDI keyboard,
Yep.
just short little clips. And obviously, as we were DJing, or other DJs, you'd sort of fire it off. So when you were doing your VJing originally, obviously you described Module 8. Were
Yep.
you using a controller or
Yeah. So I had um Korg Nano Control. was by far the
Yeah.
best piece of equipment for it. One, it's super small. So like sometimes when I'd be VJing, I wouldn't have like a lot of space. I'd be off to the side or something, like near the
Yeah.
projector. And so I would have, my laptop and have just this small strip, but basically it had 8 different knobs and 8 different sliders.
Yeah.
But not only that, but you had 4 pages of all of them. And so this is really exciting at the time because then I could go in and basically program this entire controller through Modulate, or VDMX is what I shifted to eventually for my VJing software. Um, and I could completely control everything in the software the way that I wanted, and have 4 pages of different controls. And then at that time, I was starting to get all of these clips from movies. What I realized that people really gravitated towards clubs and bars was clips of people dancing. So that was something I went and found as much as I could, and then I would very carefully be syncing it live to what the DJ was playing. And so it actually became a lot easier. So like doing it live's really difficult
Yeah.
to a certain extent. But then, once you slow it down and you're like, if I'm making a music video, there's no rush. I can basically take my time. But I think that's part of why I'm able to make my music videos so quickly, is because I had that experience of doing it live. So like I can get things in sync really quickly because you had to as a VJ.
And how long does it take you? I mean, we talk about preparation. So now, how long would it take you to do one of your videos? Because you produce hundreds, thousands. How quickly can you take an idea and get a video done now?
Yeah, so I've now done, and this isn't even the complete list, but that I have kept track of and that I still have, because I've lost some videos along the way. I'm up to 1,600 music video edits over the last decade. And that's ranging from very, very simple edits to very complex edits. So simple edits, I would say, are things where I'm basically taking a remix of a song and then going and finding the original music video for that same song, and then just adjusting that music video so that it's synced up with the remix. That I would say on the simplest. So I would say those to do well, and so it's really is synced up properly. Probably half hour at the very quickest, but probably usually 45 minutes for the quickest of edits. For my most complex edits, I've gotten a lot faster after doing so many edits over time. So I would say before, for some of my most complex edits, probably like 2 or 3 days to
Yeah.
put together. But I think now with how fast my skills are now, I would say anything that I'm trying to make, probably if I'm spending a full day on it, I would say a full day for anything that's most complex. And I think that part of the complexity now, the most time consuming part of making the videos is the cutting. So I like to
Yeah.
sample entire TV shows sometimes, or at least an entire movie. And through my process, I'm going to cut up that entire thing to go and find all of my favorite parts to make like the best music video I can out of whatever the footage that I'm using. So that takes a lot of time, just like going through the whole thing. And sometimes if it's like a movie or an animation that has like a lot of really great parts, then it takes even longer. So I think like out of a movie, typically if it has a lot of really great parts, I'll probably have about 15 minutes of footage at the end of it that I've cut from 2 hours. Sometimes for other ones, it's maybe like 8 minutes. But then if it's a TV show,
Yeah.
then it's going to be, way more than that.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at one here. I've picked out a couple that we've pulled from your YouTube. So let's add one in and see how that sounds.
permission, I'm going to do my stuff.
That's great. That is that's a great video and a great song. If people want to watch the whole thing, they can go back to YouTube on your channel and check that out. But yeah, I mean that's just one example of something that you put together, and it's so impressive. And I guess the ideas just come to you. I mean, I know you were just before when you were streaming. You said about I think the DJ Shadow and the one of the tunes that you've chosen, RJD2, and you said they haven't got videos, or there's a video already, but you haven't made one yourself. So I assume you get inspired all the time, and you suddenly think, oh, that would make a good video. Is that how it works?
Yeah. It's been an evolving process over the last decade of making music videos, of kind of how I choose what I make. But I think that, yeah, my brain very much works in that capacity. Like when I'm watching movies or TV shows, or probably even just like walking out on the street, like I think my brain is trying to think about how that might relate to music, and how I might sync something to music. And so I have a number of different lists, and huge collections. So actually, here, probably worth a visual example. I'll be right back. 1 second.
I'll keep talking while you're getting that, but
I'm here. You can hear me.
it's all about inspiration, isn't it? And being able to jot down that inspiration when you get it, and especially for ideas. I mean, I have it all the time for sort of mixes and shows and things like that. But yeah, so what are we looking at? What's that? It looks like a hard drive.
This is a bin. This is a bin of hard drives. So I have
A bin of
let's
hard
see.
drives.
Yeah, there's now, I think there's probably 16 hard drives here.
Wow.
Yeah, so just hard drive after hard drive after hard drive. So some of that is just backing up things. This one's all the way from China. I've had this one for a long time. But basically I'm just collecting things all the time. And so some of my process is getting music videos, getting movies, getting TV shows, getting animations, and keeping a really long list of them, because then the next part of the process, once I have all of these different samples, is how do you match them to the right music? And so like that's another, it's basically the same part as any DJ is. You're digging and finding different music. But I think anytime that I'm listening to any song, I'm always thinking like, how can I turn this into a music video? And not only how can I turn it into a music video, but then my brain's basically connecting to all of this different footage that I have. So I think that the more that I understand the collection that I have, and sort of the tone and the feeling of all the different movies and TV shows and animations that I can potentially sample from, as I'm listening to songs and I'm deciding which songs I want to make music videos for, I can kind of make those connections of like, okay, yeah, that's going to work really well with that movie or that one animated sample that I have. And so it kind of feeds back into itself that way. So in Serato, I just have a huge, is my best way to keep track of the music is in Serato. I just have one big crate, which is like different priorities of music videos to work on. And then it'll depend on what shows I'm doing that week. So like this last Friday, I was doing a back-to-back with Mark Brand. And so I kind of know his vibes and like the kind of music that he likes to play. So I was kind of tailoring, finding the songs that were already in my library that kind of fit that vibe, soul and funk and hip hop and things. And then thinking from those, which movies and which things can fit for those clips to make music videos for. Or next week, I'm going to be on a few breaks um, showcases. So, like going through my breaks folder and finding those music videos. Um, but I did mention earlier today for the bacon pancakes video that
Yeah, that
good
was
friend,
great.
yeah, Adam, Canadian Breakin, he sent that to me. But like the easiest answer always for music video, and same for that Nightmare Before Christmas video is like if there's anything even tangentially associated with a movie or a TV show or an animation, it's like, and I like the music, that's important. It needs to fit into my sets, then that's easy. Like I love doing those kinds of things, and those are going to connect the best. So when my friend Canadian Breakin sent me this drum and bass remix of Bacon Pancakes from the TV show Adventure Time, I like jokingly got mad at him, like, you need to be sending this to me much sooner. He had been sitting on it for like I think a year and did not send it to me, and I'm like, that's the kind of thing that I need like right away. That's the no brainer. The other ones that were it's interesting when there isn't a connection, because there's a whole lot of creates part of the creative process that's thinking about how to match things up when there isn't something that's already like matched for you.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that it spans everyone. Everyone likes certainly animation. Everyone likes movies. Everyone likes stuff like that. I mean, like basically, when I'm watching you, every now and again, I'll call my daughter in and say, come on, watch this." And then she came in and she's loving, the bacon pancakes. And then she spoke to you earlier. She loves the Harry Potter stuff when you're doing You're a Wizard, Harry, and all that stuff. But it's just it's something that everyone can enjoy because the music's really good, the videos are really good. Together, it's just a winning combination. And you really pull it off. And big respect. You've obviously been doing a lot of hard work over a lot of years, but big respect. You're definitely killing it on Twitch at the moment, and I'm sure you will for many years to come.
Yeah, really quick on that point. Something that I like to talk about. I think so. When I came back from China, I had wanted to come back for a while, but it was just kind of finding the right opportunity. I had wanted to go back to school, and I ended up applying to get my master's at Carnegie Mellon University in my hometown of Pittsburgh in entertainment technology. And in the application for that, I remember writing this is basically how both David Lynch and I think George Lucas said that when you're watching a movie, the sound is 50% of the experience. And so what they were doing was basically talking about something that was, I think, underutilized in movies or under-respected. And people know it's important, but like 50% of the movie, people I think are caught up in the visuals for a movie and maybe not thinking as much about how important the music and the sound design is. So I think conversely for DJing, where music is, it's the entire thing basically. But if you're trying to really deliver an experience, if 50% of a movie is the audio, conversely for a DJ experience, I think still there's the whole opportunity to basically be delivering an experience, to be giving people, to be delivering certain emotions and stories that I think is underutilized. And that's where what really excites me about what I've been doing for the last decade, and this ability to tie these two things together, as you said, because not only do you have the ability to get people excited about the music, but there's all these things that you can tie into, for evocative imagery, for movies that people are familiar with stuff that they're nostalgic about for their from their childhood. There's just so many things that you can play with.
And yeah, there's a lot of things that have come out of that, and we'll come back to those in a minute. We'll just take a pause now, because I don't want to touch on Twitch just yet, because I think it's important that we
Yep.
deal with what was going on just before the pandemic, when obviously
Yep.
everyone's lives changed. So, um, tell us what you were doing specifically. I assume you were DJing. I assume you were doing videos for people. What was your work and life like before sort of the beginning of 2020, when obviously the pandemic sort of hit the world?
Yeah, so I guess to bridge the gap, in my story. So I went and got my master's at Carnegie Mellon, and this was in entertainment technology, which was primarily like video games was the biggest part about it. Is basically interactive technologies, and what else? I guess in the program there are some people that go into like theme parks, animation, and some other things, but the bulk of the program is around interactive experiences like games. So in that program, I was mostly like a project manager on the things on the projects that we worked on, but I was also doing the sound and the music for the different projects. So when I graduated from that program, I guess I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I didn't really love project management, but that was kind of what I was doing in that program, where most of the opportunities were. And then my friend David Liu, he was working at a division of the company Viacom in New York City. He was working in Times Square, and he sought me out. So Viacom is one of the like 5 media companies that we have in the US. They own like Nickelodeon, Paramount, MTV, BET, some other properties.
Shall I put the Viacom show reel on while we're talking about this?
So let me introduce it quickly, and then okay, it'll be a good time to do that. And so he was working on a division there called Viacom Next. Viacom Next was working primarily on virtual reality. Virtual reality I had been working on a little bit in my master's program. It was one of the reasons actually that I decided to go to this particular master's program at this time. Like virtual reality was something that was really exciting to me, and I saw it kind of as a next step in some of the other things that I was doing in delivering an experience to people. And he was working there on virtual reality, and he called me up one day and said he had an opportunity for me to come and work with him, and to be working on sound and music and be working on virtual reality in Times Square in New York. So even though I knew at the time, still project management is not something I think that I'm best suited towards or that I'm the most passionate for. It was an interesting opportunity, and I went and I took it, and we got to do a lot of interesting things there. Yeah, I sent you a video I think we're going to watch. It's about 5 minutes. It's basically a portfolio that I put together with some projects that I worked on in my master's program, and also a few that we worked on at Viacom. So to get a little taste of some of the work that I was doing.
Let's put this on.
Welcome to The Drop. What happens when you take rhythm games like Guitar Hero and combine them with first-person shooters?
Wow. so good. So good. How's it for you watching that back? Because obviously there's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience went into that. And I guess you're not sitting around watching that every day. But when you watch that back, do you think, wow, that was good and I've come a long way since then? Or what's going through your head when you're watching something like that?
Well, I'm in a very different space than when I was working on those things. So yeah, I'm still really proud of all the work of those different projects that we created, and I think really glad that I got to work on them. Um, I am also really happy about what I'm doing now. I think there's probably some potential feature, maybe even a likely feature, where I think the two paths kind of converge again. Where because there is a lot of maybe some of the future of Twitch and some of these things is in a virtual reality environment and those kinds of
Yeah.
things. I could see them coming back together. But yeah, I'm just really lucky. I think to have gotten to work on all those things. That's how I feel about it.
That's amazing. There is a lot of people in this chat. I'm going to do a very quick shout out. I don't want anyone to feel left out. We've got J1 Sun, Double P, Mark Lancaster, Macantos. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. More effing Cowbell, Jerry, Sunnydale, Real Mark Brown, who's been a guest on the show before. Jay Bats. Who else have we got in here? We have your sister, I believe, Sunny Delight, and Lemon Lee, and a few other people. So shout out to everyone tuning in.
Li Ming Lee.
Lee.
A Chinese name.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where we are, and I think we'd sort of led up to that point pre-pandemic. So
Yeah.
what was the impact of the pandemic on you?
Yeah, the Viacom Next is where some of the projects in that video are ones that I made in my master's program. Some of them are when I was working at Viacom Next as the main producer for all of the projects there and audio designer, music director. Then Viacom Next folded. Basically, Viacom at the time was looking to merge with CBS, which they eventually did again. And so they were shedding costs. At the time, virtual reality wasn't making any money. It still isn't making that much money. But at the time, it wasn't making much money. So they were looking at places to shed costs, and we were just bleeding costs. That was some of the fun of it, is like basically we didn't have corporate breathing down our neck to like, you need to make this type of a project to like make X amount of dollars. Like nobody was making much money. So like we got to do all these just weird creative music experimentations. It was just like a really cool point in time. But the downside is that it meant our division got axed. And so after that, I came back to Pittsburgh, and I was getting back into video DJing there and having some success and enjoying it. And then my friend that I worked with briefly at Viacom, Matt Hansen, he had gone on to work for Facebook after he left Viacom. And so as he heard about Viacom Next folding, and for like several months he was kind of like saying that he potentially had a job for me and was waiting for the right time. And eventually, we had an interview, and he's like, "Okay, I have a job for you at Facebook to work on augmented reality." Very quickly, for the people that might not know the difference, the augmented reality to virtual reality is basically a spectrum. Um, and with virtual reality, you are replacing 100% of what you can see with digital imagery. So you're basically being transported into a different place. Augmented reality is replacing some percentage of what you can see with digital imagery. You're going to be most familiar with augmented reality with Pokemon Go. My
Yeah.
brother actually works for that company, Niantic, and face filters on Instagram and Facebook. That's all augmented reality. So basically, my friend said, "Hey, I have a job for you at Facebook, to be a producer, to be a project manager, essentially, on augmented reality at Facebook." And before they sort of gave me the job, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I really don't want them to give me this job. Because again, I didn't really love doing project management. I really love video DJing, creating music videos, and the things that I was doing. So I was like, I kind of don't want to have to make that choice of like, okay, but they did offer it to me, and I'm thinking, it's opportunity to go work for Facebook. So I did it. In hindsight, I'm still really glad that I did it, because like if I hadn't taken it, I think somewhere in the back of my head I'd be thinking like, what would it be like to go work there? And I really did enjoy working there. I was there for about 2 years. I love my coworkers. I just didn't really love project management, and I've known that for a while. What I really love to be doing is to be creating, and to be performing. And so this takes us to my second year at Facebook. And basically, I realized that I was not as happy as I could be at Facebook, and mostly in just the role that I was doing. So I was like, okay, what can I do to change that? So I created a spreadsheet, and I basically wrote down all the things that were important to me. And then I cross-reference them with what opportunities could I do that basically reflect those things that are important to me. And I decided at the time, I wanted to be creating things. And I think one of the ways to be doing that again was actually to go and get my second master's degree. So I applied to two master's programs at New York University, the best game design program in the country at New York Game Center. Ended up getting into both of these programs and basically deciding I'm going to leave Facebook in 2020, and I'm going to go and get my second master's. I'm going to move back to New York. And then the pandemic hit. And it was already a lot of money to be going back to school, which I was already a little reluctant about. And then I was thinking, I'm not, to pay all this money to be doing remote learning during COVID. I'm like, that it doesn't make sense. I don't want to do that. So I deferred my application for the next year, and I was thinking, okay, I'll go next year. But then right around that time, some of my DJ friends were getting on Twitch, and most importantly, my friend Dunks from the Funk Hunters, who I'd known for about a decade, from them playing some of my videos and their shows and trading back videos. Dunks had a big show, a big 420 show with Westwood Recordings, and he messaged me on Facebook and he said, "Can you send me some videos for the show?" So I said, of course. I sent him a bunch of my videos. And watching that show, that 420 show, Dunks played like 2 or 3 of my music videos. And it was just like to see him playing them for like a big crowd. People have been playing my music videos like across the world for a while, ever since I started making them to some degree. Some people were playing them, but I'd never really like seen it. I hadn't like seen other people doing it. So, and seeing somebody like Dunks play it for a really big community on Twitch, I'm like, okay, yep, that's it. Went and bought this crappy green screen that day and bought a video interface. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get on Twitch, and it was just completely life changing. It was I had always had trouble finding the right venues to go and video DJ for this, particularly when I was living in Pittsburgh. Like places needed to be set up for video.
Yeah.
And had trouble doing that. And all of a sudden there was this opportunity to do what I uniquely do, video DJ, and to like have it automatically perfectly set up, like in my home. I don't even need to move any equipment, and to be able to play for people all across the world was like literally the perfect thing that I needed for that. And so pretty quickly, in like a few months, it was clear that people were really enjoying what I was doing. And I was thinking, I got to go. That actually, there was an interview with, I think it was with Little John on the Tweak Music Tips, and he was
Yeah,
talking about like, when opportunities come, you gotta really go forward with them. You gotta really take a chance when they present themselves.
definitely.
And I think I'd already been thinking about it, but I was like, it's absolutely right. And like, I have this opportunity in front of me. I'm just gonna do it. So I talked about it with friends and family of like, hey, I'm thinking about leaving Facebook and doing this full time. I think that I can do it. I think that somebody was saying I'm modest earlier, but I think I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I think I'm one of the best in the world at this, at making these music videos. And I think I can make this work. Not only because of, I think, like what I'd been doing already, but that I knew that I was so passionate for it that like I'm gonna put myself 100% into
Yeah.
it. And it's completely different than at Facebook where I was putting myself probably like 20%, into it. And so I think the idea of like being able to put yourself into something 100%, and when there's a real opportunity there, that I think is a good match. And so I left Facebook October 2020, and went from there.
And it's yeah, I mean, like you say, with your with mental health, obviously, if you're doing a job or doing something and you're not giving it 100%, then there's something missing, and you're not being true to yourself. And music is such a passionate thing, and obviously, videos and music videos for you is so passionate that of course, and it's good that you had firstly the support, but also the belief that you could do it. I would say you probably are one of the best at doing music videos, but obviously to know that in yourself and know that what I'm good enough and I can do this. I'm going to give this a proper shot and see where it takes me. Is amazing, and it's good that you had that belief and that support from family and friends
The
to be able to
support
do
the
it.
support part is really key. Is like
Yeah,
and that's where I feel bad that I wish that more people, I think, were able to do that kind of thing that I do. So I talk about this often on my channel about this idea of like, yeah, trying to go towards your bliss and living life in a way that is aligned with what you care about. But the sad fact is like most of the world, they can't do, they don't have the luxury of doing
no,
that. So that is somewhere where I feel really, really fortunate that I, felt comfortable because of the support system that I have around me. And that includes, my friends and my community that I knew were supporting me to go and be able to do that.
and it's you get onto Twitch, and it's something that we talk about a lot on the show. Is the Twitch community is so positive, and everyone wants to help each other out. Everyone wants to give to each other. You know, everyone follow everyone. There's not many facets in life where you're saying, what, this person's brilliant, this person's brilliant. Follow this person, follow this. It's quite a unique thing, I think, that we've got on Twitch, where we're not competing against each other. We're all working together to bring something and make it bigger. And I think that helps all of us.
I could not agree more. And this is there's a channel points redemption on my channel called Words of Wisdom. That I think like for a while I was like, I'd talk about these kinds of things. I talk about meditation, or I talk about sleep, or I talk about following your bliss, or and I think again, Canadian Breaking came up with this idea to have this as a channel points redemption on my channel. It became pretty popular. But one of the things that I do for Words of Wisdom is exactly that. I quote Ray Domingo, everybody follow everybody, and really about how different it is, the DJ community on Twitch, and not just like compared to other things in life, but compared to like DJing and outside of Twitch, it's like generally can be a very cutthroat
Yeah.
kind of world to live in, where people aren't necessarily always supporting each other. But I think Twitch, it's unique in the way that it's set up, that it is set up in a way that it's about community building and supporting other channels. Just the raid feature by itself,
Yeah.
just such a powerful way to connect to other people and to support other people. There's this idea in Buddhism of mudita, which basically means sympathetic joy, where and this is what I talk about as part of the same words of wisdom, where it's like, and I have this all the time, and I think we all do, where it's like sometimes even your friends, there can be some impulse where somebody else is doing really well, and rather than like instinctually being happy for them, sometimes you'll feel a little bit like threatened, or you'll feel a little bit worse. I think that's just human nature. It's just like some sort of like scarcity mentality where it's like if somebody else is doing well, then like it means you're not doing as well as you can be. But I think that this idea of mudita is like flipping this on its head wherever you can, especially when you have one of those instincts. And again, I think we all do sometimes to turn it around and say, no, I'm going to be happy for this person because you can be. And that's what mudita is about, of like really embracing that idea of being happy, for especially your friends, but for everybody around you, that can be really transformative.
Yeah, I mean, I hit 1K a little while ago, followers, and I just mentioned that more effing cowbell before we move on. How many followers, subscribers do you have on your channel currently? You know, you don't have to answer that, but it's up to
I
you.
think it's rounding up to 7,300 now.
Yeah, getting very close to the 7,500 and then 10 and on. But yeah, I mean, so when I hit 1K, my followers party, we was part of Funklectic, and thank you for including me on that. But we had a bit of a chat like that. You congratulated me, and then I said, oh, this is what I'm doing. And a comment you made, which stuck with me, is I think you said comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Which really struck with me, and it's very true, and it's coming back to exactly what you're saying, that you know you can't be jealous of what someone else is doing, because when we're not all the same, we're all taking different paths, we're all doing different things. And I can't stand and say, oh, that person's got 2,000 followers, or that person got 5,000, because they're doing completely different things. I'm just happy, and I think the same with anyone on Twitch, all of the DJs and all of my guests who come on. We're happy that people follow us, we're happy that people spend time on our channels, and engage in what we're doing, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or every week or whatever. So it's it is an amazing community, and I think it's helped a lot of people. And I think your sister put a comment in earlier saying that a lot of people were helped through the pandemic by your sets.
Yeah,
um,
by everybody's
yeah
sets on both sides. And to touch on what you're talking about, I couldn't agree more. And I think this is one of the more dangerous parts of, I think mental health is something that's under discussed, for streamers on Twitch in general. It can be really, really hard.
yeah
It's like, I think that, if you're DJing at a club, for instance, it's not like you have a statistics for like how many people are at like all of your friends clubs, and
yeah
can like
yeah yeah
directly see like which friends are at your place. And there's so many like different metrics, and like subs and like all sorts of things, is like if you're not careful, it can be really easy to go down, I think some pretty dark paths for a lot of people. And so like how I've always looked at it, I think I get the question a lot from people of like, what do you need next, like to really like, uh you're like, what's your like biggest goal on Twitch, or like for your creative career, and all these things. And it's like, I think that is human nature, to always need that next thing and want that next goal and whatever it is. um and I think that that's okay. But I think that also having and practicing gratitude for where we're at, is so, so, so important. Otherwise, you can get caught into this sort of treadmill of always, um, trying to place your happiness in a hypothetical future for, okay, I'm going to be happy when I get 10,000 followers, or I'm going to be happy when I book this music festival, or I'm gonna be happy when I have as many followers as the Funk Hunters have, or whatever these things are. But it's like, it's getting way ahead of yourself, where it's like,
yeah
what do you actually need? And it's like, and I say this, and it's like I have to kind of tell myself this sometimes, and it's like, I am so freaking happy to be able to just have a platform that I can play music for people, and that like any amount of people come and show up
yeah
and watch me play. I haven't always had that. As I said, like just to
Totally.
go and video DJ, not only did I have to have the right type of clubs, I had to be like schmoozing with owners and promoters and things, like stuff that I'm not very good at that, about
Yeah.
like promoting myself in that context. Um, and just to like have this bare minimum of like being able to do that, that makes me so happy. So just like forget any of the other stuff outside of that. It's like it's icing on the cake to like not only, every time I go live, there's going to be, usually like 100 people that'll come in and be there eventually, which is freaking amazing. But that's not what I need. And like I don't need to have, more like financial success and things to be able to live out here in California would be great. Um, but it's like at a base level, I'm just so happy with what I'm doing right now, and I think that that's important for all DJs and all streamers on Twitch to be able to recognize. Of like, sure, it would be nice and it's natural to want some of these other things, but to kind of have gratitude for what we have now.
Yeah, and like you say, yeah, it'd be amazing to have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 followers, whatever. But it isn't going to make me happy. And it's all the little side things that I found from certainly my streams and my experience. This is episode 18, and we've done shows in the past. But there was one show where we had Funky Flavors on it. He'd recently lost his father. And I spoke to him a few days before. I was like, you sure, do you want to still do the show? And he's like, no, it's important. I want to talk about it. And I was like, fine, brilliant. We talked about it. It was an emotional show. He did that. And then months later, another DJ friend said he'd lost his father. And I said, right, you don't have to, but go and watch this show, see what you think. And then you get a message back, that was inspiring. He went and messaged Funky Flavors and said, that was really great. And I think it's those tiny little things, that are important. You hit one person or affect one person's life in some way. And I think that's what we're here for. We've got
It's amazing.
an amazing platform and a channel to do things. And that means so much more than money, followers, any of that. And we put ourselves out there. We're very vulnerable putting ourselves out there, and I think it's nice to have some of that coming back.
I think the negativity of like I talk about this a lot on my channel also is like human beings are hardwired for a negativity bias. So like let's say you have 100 things happen to you in a day. If you have like even if it's like 90 of them are like more positive things like the ones you're describing. But there's like a couple people in the chat that are negative, or like the numbers aren't what they're supposed to be. Like the way our brain works is it latches onto those negative things and forgets about all the positive ones, which is like all the more reason why doing things like trying to practice gratitude and like even writing down the things you're grateful for can help kind of like course correct towards reality and like recognize and not forget about all those wonderful things that are actually happening.
Yeah, but that's very true. It's very, very
the one
true.
other thing, the one other thing I wanted to say quickly before I forget is that I think for streamers, some things that make it much more bearable, like to turn off some of those voices of like of comparing yourself to other people when you're streaming. Don't. So what I'll do is like I am monitoring my stream, but I pull the window over to the left so that it basically I don't see what any other channel is doing while I'm streaming.
That's
Of like how many people are in it. The only time I'm looking at that list is when I'm done and I'm thinking of rating. Otherwise, I block it out because it's like the way the brain works. Again, it is comparing. It's like, okay, wow, this other friend of mine, I love them, but they have 120 people in their chat, and I only have 90 people in my chat. It's just like what are we doing? The even better thing to do. So that's one thing that I highly recommend. The second one is actually hiding how many viewers are in your chat. It's like I think it's way better. Anytime I do that, it's like I'm definitely much happier. And it's just so weird because it's all relative. It's like at some point, when I started having, any more than like 20 or 30 people in my chat, I was ecstatic. But at some point, it's like that number keeps growing and growing. It's like, what are you going to be happy with? And like, even if like I'm on a raid train or something like that, and like the raid comes in and we have like 150 people, if that number goes down to like 120, somewhere in my head, I'm like, there's less people. But it's like, there's still 120 people in your, and somewhere my brain's like, oh, this isn't good because it's less. This is something called loss aversion. And so it's like, it's like it's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. Whereas like more often than not, it's gonna make you enjoy streaming less. And the partner process, that's the one part where it's like the numbers actually do matter.
Yeah,
Where
well,
I think it can be more stressful. Yeah.
yeah, well, we'll come back to that in a minute. But I think what you're saying is very true, isn't it? You know, you get a raid, and then suddenly, however many people have left, and you suddenly think, have I done something wrong? Have I played the wrong music? Have I done the wrong vibe for this raid? And it's all negative. And really, you should
All
just
negative.
forget all that and just concentrate on your set, concentrate on what you're playing. And it's very easy to say that, but obviously, reality is different. But I think those ideas you've got about moving across, how many other people are watching and getting, we've discussed certainly Double P, who inspired the show in the first place and was one of the first guests, was talking about viewer numbers and stuff as a new streamer and that. And we, again, the assistance and the support people were giving him was saying, just ignore it, just turn the numbers off, don't even worry
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Yeah, becoming a partner. It's something that I imagine most streamers, when they first started, think, okay, I want to be a partner. I think things are a little bit different now, aren't they? Because I think before there was quite a huge difference between being a partner and an affiliate. There's obviously a financial difference. You couldn't get certain emotes. Now there's, animated emotes. You can get a lot more stuff now that you couldn't get before. But so talk us through that, because obviously you had to get sort of 75 average viewers. You had to be streaming 25 hours a month. You had to be streaming, I think it's 12 different days. Was that a lot of pressure at the time? Were you really focused on getting it?
Yeah, so one, there's actually not a financial difference between partners and affiliates. I think I've heard that rumor other places that like partners get a bigger cut or something like that. It's not
It's
not
just
not
not
the
okay.
case. Yeah, there's no financial difference. You do, I think, because you get more emote slots and things. Theoretically, people are maybe more likely to subscribe to you
Yeah,
because like
yeah,
you
fair
get
enough.
more for your subscription, but there's not actual like a higher payout or anything. But yeah, no, I think when I first heard about like the partner numbers and what you need to get them, I was like, there's no way I'm ever gonna make this. Like, so it wasn't even something I was ever even really thinking about. I was like, it would be nice to do that. But it wasn't something I was really thinking about. And then I think it was, yeah, I guess about a year ago, my numbers were doing really well, and they were like creeping up towards that. You need a 75 average to apply, but that's not what they're actually looking for. They want like numbers in the hundreds to actually accept your application. And so like my numbers were up there, so I'm like, oh wow, okay. So I may as well apply. And yeah, once I hit the average, I was really excited. I applied. You have to write like a statement of why they should make you a partner. I talked with Steve Disco Newsom, who had
Yeah,
recently made partner. He gave me some advice on what to do, what to write, and things like that. I think I had a really good case of talking to them. It was basically like I'm making oftentimes 20 music videos a week that are exclusively for my Twitch show.
yeah.
I left Facebook to work on Twitch full time. I have like this background and things that are applicable towards what I'm doing here. um but it was actually probably the time that I least enjoyed DJing on Twitch, in my 2 years of DJing
Yeah,
on Twitch, because it is really, so just for the reason that we were just talking about, is like when you start thinking about the numbers, that's where it really takes away a lot of the enjoyment of Twitch. So like not only was I concerned about the numbers every time I was streaming, and you kind of have to be, because they're looking at them and they're judging you based on those numbers on whether they're gonna accept your application. But also like people are inviting me to like raid trains and things, and I'm like doing like mental calculus, and it feels terrible. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
like this is a smaller streamer, like, and I'm only
yeah,
going to
yeah,
be on for an hour. I'm not going to be able to get my numbers up to like the numbers they need to be for an average, so I can't do this raid train with somebody. It's typically like somebody asked me to do a raid train, I typically say yes, but if I'm not busy. And then just like when I was streaming, if numbers went down a little bit, and then it's like already, we were talking about you feel bad, but like when you're thinking about the Twitch is there watching it, it's just awful. So I think what I would highly recommend to people is to really not care about it as much as you can, because I think that like caring about it, it's gonna make your streams worse also.
Yeah.
It's like how I got the numbers that I did get, I think, is because I was just doing absolutely what I cared about and not thinking about anything else, and not worrying about anything else. And so I think that it's easy to say, but yeah, and I think especially once you make that minimum, it's like, of course you want to apply, but it's like I don't wish that period on anybody of like having to worry about those numbers. It's not fun. And
Yeah.
it's like, and it's not worth it. It's like, what are the benefits of becoming partner? I would say really like the biggest benefit, honestly, is like the purple check. Is basically actually I don't even think I really looked at purple checks before I started applying for partner. But I think that like maybe especially for my channel is what I'm hoping is that like I just want people to take a look at what I do, and then hopefully they'll like it, or at least think it's interesting enough to follow. And so I just want that chance. And I think the purple check does give like a little bit more of that chance of like, okay, if I'm gonna chat with other people and they see a purple check, like, oh, okay, this person's a partner, maybe I'll check out what they do. I'd say that's the biggest benefit. Other
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
that, it's like the
Yeah.
extra emote slugs are nice, but it's like it's not that big.
No, I mean it's nice because obviously you're a creative person, and talking of emotes, you won the Global Funk Fam Best Emote for your gold heart,
Yep.
which was again an amazing design, and it's still there, and I like it a lot. I use it a lot. Um, okay, yeah, that's interesting about Twitch, and a lot of that was echoed from conversations I've had with Sam Tweeks in the past as well. And again, I remember speaking to him about that period when he was sort of trying to get to partner, and pretty much everything you're saying is echoing exactly what he said. And yeah, it's a difficult time, but at that point, it was a focus of something. And Twitch is a bit of a game, isn't it? Obviously it's made by gamers. Initially gamers took it, and it's like level up, and it's strange. It's an addiction, but it's hopefully a good addiction. It's just knowing how much to spend on it. Right, let's move on to we talked about there's three things that you talk a lot about on your streams: meditation, exercise, sleep. So let's start with meditation. I've managed to tune into a couple of your sets that you've done specifically for meditation. So how long have you been meditating for? Why would you recommend it, and what have your streams contained when you've done meditation ones?
Yeah. So after I moved out to California, I think before that I'd obviously heard about meditation and mindfulness and things, but hadn't really had an opportunity to try meditation, or I guess had the motivation to do it. At Facebook, there was um, we have like an internal. It's basically like an internal Facebook called Workplace on Facebook. And I heard that there was a group meditation going on campus, so I went and tried it. Instantly, really loved it. I think that what I'd heard about meditation was that it could help with your focus, which I think had been an issue for me for a while, and something that I could feel consciously when trying to work on different things or do certain things, feeling my focus slipping, which I think is probably the case for most people in today's society. Number two, the ability to actually be in the present. I think throughout my life, I had felt lots of times where even if I was doing something enjoyable, I felt my mind was somewhere else, somewhere thinking in the future, thinking in the past, which is what the mind does. 48% of the time, our brain is thinking about the future, and rarely is it able to be in the present moment. So that attracted me to meditation. And then I tried this group meditation. I really loved it, and decided I was gonna give it a try and introducing into my life. So I got I think an app on my phone, or maybe it was through Audible. I think I was subscribing to Audible at the time, and they had some free guided meditations on there. So I started doing it every day. And so like basically over the last 5 years, I have kind of been experimenting, I guess, trying different things in my life. If they're making a positive improvement in my life, then I keep doing them. Otherwise, I don't. And so meditation was one of those things where I was like, okay, I'm going to try doing this every day. If I feel better, then I'm going to keep doing it. So I started going to, we had group meditations at Facebook that I started going to every week. There was a free mindfulness seminar that I went and took with my awesome meditation teacher, Miru Kim. And there was also group meditations here in Redwood City, where I live in California, at the Insight Meditation Center near where I live. So I started doing all these things. I had just gotten a Kindle at that time also. So I got all of these books on meditation and mindfulness, and was just reading and listening to audiobooks about it, and just got really, really interested in the topic. I think part of it was the scientific side of it. Basically, there's been a lot of really strong science in the last few decades showing all of the positive things that meditation can do for you. It's absolutely changed my life, and a lot, so much so has it changed my life, I would say, that I really regret not being introduced to it sooner in my life. I think it really, could have changed my life even earlier in some ways, but better late than never. And that's why it's actually so important to me to go and try and give that gift to other people, for the other people that may not have heard about it or not thought about why they should be doing it, to try and share the awareness of what it can do for you. And so that's where, actually, when I was talking earlier about the spreadsheet that I made when I was thinking of leaving Facebook, of all the things that were important to me and all the opportunities that I could do, one of the things I was thinking about was like going to become a meditation teacher. I felt that strongly about being able to share that gift that was so important to me. And what's really nice, actually, in that meditation mindfulness seminar that I took with Miru Kim, we had this exercise, which I forget how it was worded, but it was basically like, if you could basically decide everything, like, how would you design your life tomorrow?
Okay. That's
So
interesting.
it was phrased much better than that, but like I forget exactly what it was. But basically, my answer was, and I had only been at Facebook for a couple months. I was like, I would quit my job tomorrow. I would leave Facebook. I'd basically buy like a dance club, and I would lead guided meditations during the day in the club, and then I'd video DJ at night in this club. Flash forward to like not much longer after that, I guess, let's see, 1 year after that. Yeah, about 1 year after that was like when basically Twitch was gifted into my lap. And like, what do I have is like, I have my own club, the Maculate club, my own channel that I can play in anytime. It's even better than a dance club. Like a dance club, you can only play at night. I can play anytime in this club. And not only that, but like I can be talking with people about meditation on my streams directly, and be sharing those stuff like while I'm doing the video DJing, which is exactly so. Like before, before January of this year, I'd be talking about meditation in my streams really often. But there was this idea that I had that I wanted to create a whole stream around meditation. And so I spent a few months here and there creating a whole bunch of content for this stream that I've now done, I think 4 or 5 of them, the Maculate Meditation Special. And the reception has been absolutely fantastic. That's one thing about, and I think I was waiting until I made partner, is that before, for whatever reason, I was, thinking about numbers, at least they were somewhat important. But it's like after you make partner, I would say that is one other benefit of making partner, is that it doesn't, I mean, they don't really, they never mattered in the first place, but like, they actually, they don't matter towards making partner after you make partner. And so at that point I was like, okay, once I make partner, I can experiment with different types of streams. And it's like, it won't matter if like, if the numbers are low. It's like, but then, amazingly still the numbers are fantastic, when I do the meditation stream. So it's like I could have been doing them all along and it would have been fine. But yeah, basically these streams, the Maculate Meditation Special, I created hours and hours of content where I sample famous meditative moments from movies, from TV shows, from animations, as well as mindfulness and meditation experts talking about meditation. And I mix it all with like down tempo instrumental hip hop, trip hop, things like that. So like really, really chilled vibes and lots of room for discussion about meditation and mindfulness, and these things. And the reception's been like, I've heard from so many people like, oh, I got back into meditation because your streams, or I started meditating. Maybe Little Fever's in the chat. He got on the Balance app, which is what I use for meditation these days, for guided meditations. He had like a 2-month streak or something like that, meditating every day
Wow.
after these specials. So that just means the world to me.
Yeah, he put a
The
thing in the chat. Here we go. 86 days, 22 hours and 45 of life-changing meditation. Thank you,
like
Maculate.
like you were talking about the little things, like that's
Yeah,
a really big thing. That's a really,
yeah.
really big thing. And exactly what I was saying. It's like I wish there was somebody that could have done that for me earlier in my life, but so glad to be able to do that for other people. I read this book called Drive, um, I think by Daniel Pink, I think it is. But he talks about the three main keys for motivation. And I've talked about this on my stream sometimes. So apologies for people that have heard it. But the three keys are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And so autonomy, being able to control exactly what you're doing, like not have other people dictating what you're doing and why you're doing it. Number two, mastery, to get better at something and to do things that you're good at. Number three, purpose, to do things that are greater than just yourself. So when I was at Facebook, very little autonomy, just basically doing what they asked me to do, and not even really doing that most of the time. Number two, mastery, was not getting better at what I was doing, so I didn't really love it. And number three, purpose. I had the opposite of purpose because I was not morally aligned with really advertising in general. Facebook's main mo, but just like we all know about, how bad Facebook is at this day. So I leave Facebook, and then again I get this opportunity. I guess I had it before I left Facebook, but I found this opportunity that to have my own Twitch channel, all the autonomy in the world. I can completely control the music and the videos and talking about meditation, all of these kinds of things. Number two, mastery, getting better at community building and branding and music video creation and DJing, all these things. But then the really big one, purpose, is that it's really given this
Yeah.
opportunity, I think, to and even before talking about meditation or talking about sleep or exercise or these things that I talk about, and you've experienced this and everybody's experienced this, it's been on Twitch, that during the pandemic, especially, what we've all meant for each other, for our mental health and community and being there for each other. Like I've heard it so many times how important it's been, my streams, but I think everybody's streams have been there. So just having that element of purpose, of being able to do something that I love, that makes other people's lives better. But then you add on this other element of like, where I see a lot of potential for Twitch. You talk about Mark Brand in the chat earlier, stuff
Yeah.
that he's doing. It's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to be able to take the things that we're doing and make other people's lives better in any way. That's really exciting to me, and again, very motivating, as Daniel Pink says.
It's having, again, we've got a platform, some bigger than others, but it's having that platform and doing something with it. I just want to say, but while we're chatting, thank you to the anonymous gifter who gifted a sub to Stream Elements. I'm not sure Stream Elements can use that. Thank you to Sunny Delight for the gift sub, and thank you to More Effin Cowbell for the gift sub. Much appreciated, guys. Thank you so much, and Sunny Delight for the bits. But it's funny, isn't it? Because you say those three things that are so important: autonomy, mastery, purpose. And it certainly hits me because I've recently changed jobs and I didn't have any of those three things in the job that I was doing. And as soon as I just, this massive weight lifted, and I'm in a new job and it's going well, and the future's looking good and all the rest of it. But those are really important things. And Twitch I think has helped me, certainly for my mental health, get through it, because I've known that whatever's been going on at work, whatever's been going on in the world, I've been able to write, okay, I'm going to switch it on. I'm going to stream. There'll be people I know, friends, followers I can chat to. They can listen to my music, and then it just gets you through. And it's that element with the little bit of creativity as well. What music am I going to play? What's my stream going to look like? It's so important. I think it's helped a lot of people, and you just don't know. Where would we have been without Twitch? You just don't know what where would have been.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has been everything for so many of us, and the sad reality is that it could be gone tomorrow. For us DJs, it's like that. There's always been that sort of Damocles over
Copyright
our heads.
threat, wasn't there, sort of hanging
Yeah,
over
and
us?
I think it it very well might come back, and my point of that is not to be negative, but to really, again, the theme from earlier of really being grateful and happy for what we have right
Yeah.
now and what we have had over the last 2 years, and that's the case for everything. Another really big theme in Buddhism is the idea that everything is transient, everything is
Mm.
temporary. And so it's like, as human beings, we want things to last forever. We want to grasp onto them and have them last forever, but nothing does, and that leads to
No.
suffering. So I think that having this gratitude of like, no, okay, if it's all gone tomorrow, it's still absolutely amazing,
We've,
and I'm
we've
really happy for what we've had.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a good run, haven't we?
Yeah,
You know.
my AirPods are running out of batteries. I think I'm just gonna take them off, and then I'll go to the just my laptop speakers should be okay.
Okay, cool. Right. So we've talked about, obviously, meditation. Sleep is another thing that you talk about. Getting 8 hours of sleep now in these busy worlds that we live in, and certainly with a lot of us watching Twitch, sometimes till sort of late at night. How do you find the discipline to sort of get your 8 hours? Do you go to bed at a specific time and wake up every single night, or how do you do it?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I still hear you. That's cool.
Great. Yeah. So the three things, the Maculate keys to balance that I talk about incessantly on my streams, in order of importance: sleep, exercise, meditation. I'd say they're all pretty close, but that's the order. Sleep. And so this is, I was saying I was experimenting with different things. I think I read this book, Why We Sleep, by Matthew Walker. When I was reading all those books around that same time that I got into meditation, and it really hit home of like, I should be, or I should at least try prioritizing sleep and see if it makes my life better, as he was saying in the book, and it absolutely did. I found a huge difference in my life in getting and prioritizing getting 8 hours of sleep every night. And the number one thing that he says for getting better sleep is to try and go to sleep at the same time every night and wake up at the same time in the morning. So that is what I do. And what's interesting is, like, I was the complete opposite of this at the very beginning of Twitch. It was for a very good reason, I think, just because I love what I was doing so much. I was doing really long streams early into the morning. I think one of the things that I became infamous for, I did a 24-hour stream on my birthday in 2020. I did a 25-hour all animated music video stream like a month after that. And like pretty often my streams would be at least like 10 hours, 12 hours. They were really long. I think it's just, I really just love what I was doing so much. And I saw value in continuing to.
Yeah.
And then at some point it was like, no, I need to get back to balance. That was part of leaving Facebook, where I was like, I recognized I was getting out of, like, I had lost some of the balance. I wasn't exercising like I had been previously. I wasn't getting the sleep that I needed, those kinds of things. And so I started prioritizing sleep again. And yeah, for the last year and a half or so, I've been remarkably consistent of getting about 8 hours per night with few exceptions. And that means, like, generally, I'll miss certain things going on at night, and there's lots of people that miss my later night streams, but I think it's been really great for me and my balance. But yeah, getting 8 hours of sleep, basically sleep, as the book says, as the book Why We Sleep says, is the most critical thing for every aspect of how our brain and our body functions. Helps with emotional regulation, helps with our metabolism, our happiness, so many different things that that sleep does for us. And yeah, I would notice if, days where I didn't get enough sleep, just such a giant difference in my streams, in every part of my life. So I think a theme has been that I love what I'm doing so much right now that I wanted to maximize and be my very best self for doing what I'm doing, to be able to continue to keep doing it and to kind of present myself the best self for our community.
And do you find getting to sleep easy? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who sometimes struggle. Do you use any sort of app, or is meditation part of getting to sleep?
Yeah, so I think meditation and sleep are heavily connected. I think that a lot of the same techniques that you do when you're meditating are really, really valuable for sleeping. It's basically when you're trying to sleep, let's say you have to like wake up early in the morning and you can't fall asleep. And also when you're trying to meditate, it's basically the same feeling. Is the two times where you're like, okay, I'm trying to focus on my breath, or I'm trying to fall asleep, but no, my brain is just going a million miles a minute. What's called the monkey mind. It's just going in all these different directions and you literally can't control it. And so by meditating in the day or at night, I prefer in the morning is my main time to meditate. But what you're doing is continually noticing that your mind is wandering and refocusing it on an object of focus, which is typically your breath is the most common one. And so I think the same exact technique when I'm trying to go to sleep, and this still happens sometimes when maybe particularly after a set or something like that, and I'm still wound up, just doing the same thing of refocusing on my breath. And then I think probably compared to any other time in my life, or definitely compared to any other time in my life, like I can fall asleep so much better than before. But also part of that, I think, is exercising every day. I think that helps. And being really consistent with the sleep schedule. Like my body and my circadian rhythm are kind of prepared to go to sleep at around 10 o'clock every night, like I do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then obviously that brings us on to exercise as well. I know you do a lot of running. So is that, do you do specifically running exercises, or do you do weights? Do you do anything else?
Yeah. So I, let's see, it was about 5 years ago. Is that right? It's really tough to tell the passage of time during COVID.
Yeah.
But around 5 years, I lost 50 pounds. I began by trying to change my diet, and it was stop and go for a while, but I started trying the Atkins diet / keto diet, which is basically low carbohydrate, low sugar. And around the same time, I started exercising. I was not running or doing anything right then, but what I was doing, and this is one of the main reasons I wanted to get a virtual reality headset, is that I thought that basically by virtue of the technology, basically it can track your movement down to a millimeter level, is that there's a lot of different experiences that you can do that would be fun, and you can get some cardio, you can get some good exercise. It was definitely the case. And so basically while I was losing that weight, doing keto and some intermittent fasting as well was very effective. But I was playing a lot of this game called Beat Saber. It's the most popular game in VR. It's basically like Guitar Hero in VR, and playing it at a really competitive level, and playing it every day, and getting my cardio through that. So that's kind of, I think, what started my recent exercise journey. That continued until I came out here to Facebook, and was still playing a lot out here. But at one point, I decided I was going to try introducing running into what I was doing. So I think that was a couple months after I moved out here. and started running every day. And that was when I really, really felt a really strong difference in my life, and my mood and my happiness levels. Was when I would run in a certain day, I just felt so much better. I got away from that, I think, somewhat correlated with the beginning of my Twitch time, where I was really focused on, I was still working at Facebook and trying to make all the videos and stream on Twitch, and my balance was all out of whack. But somewhere in my head, and that's what's key for a lot of these things, having the awareness of like, I know how much better it makes me feel. So even if I'm not doing it currently, I want to get back to it.
Yeah.
And about a year ago, it was actually right when I made partner. I think that day I was like, okay, I'm going to get back running every day, or I'm going to start running. And I did. So it was almost a year ago. So it was 10 months ago, I think, that I made partner, and I started running every day right then. So I'm at 305 days in a row of running at least 1 mile. So 2 more months, and I'm going to hit 1 year of running at least a mile every day for a full year. And yeah, I cannot recommend getting any type of exercise enough. It makes such a positive difference in everything in my life. I'm really grateful that I have it. One thing that's really nice out here in California, I know it's not easy in other places, and that's why most of my life,
so easy in the UK.
most of the places in my life that I lived have been bad weather cities. Pittsburgh, where I'm from, one of the most underrated places in the world, but the weather is not good. And so it can be a lot less motivating, particularly to go running, to go out and do those things. So I'm really blessed, and I know it would be different other places where it's sunny, like 7 months out of the year or something like that, to be able to go and run in that sunshine. So, but I think that like the message is to do it. So whether that means getting to a gym, or doing VR exercise, or even it's just like push-ups and sit-ups or something in the home, just like doing something can make such a positive difference in your life. And I think the making it fun. So like that was what initially got me into it. It was like the VR, it was just like, it wasn't even exercise. It was just really fun to be playing. And then even for running now, though, it's like I'm always listening to an audiobook, which I really love to do. I really love to consume books and audiobooks. And so it's like that part of it's fun for me. So I think like figuring out how to make it fun is essential.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, my friend's got a gym, and he's just about to open a slightly bigger place. But before the pandemic, he ran a community powerlifting group called Misfits, and people from all walks of life would just go. And there was a community and the fun and the spirit. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and then that sort of all went out the window. But again, I want to get back to it, and I know I need to get back to it.
That's the key.
It's important, and he's about to open his new gym soon, so it'll make it a lot easier to sort of go and do stuff. But
I think the gym part of it can be difficult, at least for me, and I imagine for some other people, where it's like you can get the motivation to go to another location to go and work out, I think, for a little while. But it's like once work and other things start getting really busy, it's tough to maintain that. So I think the more that you're able to do something that's like at your home, that makes it more sustainable for me, at least. And I imagine for other people. There's a book that I talk about a lot on my streams, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think it's been the #1 New York Times bestseller for at least a year now as well, which I'm happy to see. But it's all about basically making very small changes to your life, but doing them every single day is the key. And then basically over time, that leads to astronomically large changes to your life that like just start by very small changes. So I think that's key. It's like if you're relying on getting to a gym every day, it's like, dang, that really gets hard when you have all the other things in life that pop up, where it's like, if I'm running every day, it's like, I'm just going from my house. Like, it's not that hard to get the motivation. I just need to go right from my house. Like, that's not bad.
Sunny Delight, if you want to whisper me the link, I can put it in. I've just got it set up so people who are not moderators can't put links in. So if you've got any links, whisper them to me and I'll copy them in to the chat. And thank you for that. Right. Well, let's move on to diets, because obviously we've talked about this. Now, the reason we're talking about this is because normally on my show we've got a thing called Confectionery Corner, and people bring on sweets, cakes, things that are retro or things that are relevant to their particular countries. For example, we had some German cakes from DJ Robert Smith last week, and obviously I spoke to you about this, and you say it's not something you do. You have a keto diet, so I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Keto.
Keto. So, for people who don't know what it is, how long have you been doing it? What is it, and what impact has it had?
Yeah, so I first started on and off, I think about 5 years ago. And it was when I was still living in New York, and it was nearly impossible to maintain then. It's basically like I was literally living next to like a Dunkin' Donuts and another pizza place. And basically in New York, like every like fourth establishment is a pizza place, which is my favorite food. I love pizza.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to successfully maintain. I would go on it for a little while, then go off it, then go on it, which is like you can't really do it successfully doing it that way. You need to stay on it. So it was when I got back to Pittsburgh that I got really I was able to successfully maintain it. But it's basically just having as low carbohydrates and sugar as possible, which I think is extreme for a lot of people. And I remember it was my mom who recommended in the first place. I had been gaining a lot of weight since I had moved out to China progressively over time. And my parents have been on the Atkins diet, which is very similar to keto. I don't even know what the main differences are, but they're basically both low carb, low sugar. And when she recommended, I was like, give up like pizza and noodles and rice and all that kind of stuff, and bread. It's like that sounds insane. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. But I ended up giving it a try, and the thing is, over time you get, like, we have sugar addiction, a physical addiction to sugar that basically requires us to keep having so much sugar. But once you actually wean yourself off of it, you don't have those same cravings, and it's not so bad. And one of the really nice things about keto is like you can still eat a lot of food, because that's always been one of my issues. I like to eat a lot of food. You can still eat a lot of food, but it's just like you don't eat certain things. You don't have desserts. You don't have sodas, which I haven't had for a long time. You don't have rice or bread or noodles or those things, but you can still have meat and vegetables and eggs and cheese and different things. So it's still like a lot of delicious foods. So it's like some diets, I think generally it's like you're pretty much just having like salads and things, and it's like becomes a little bit less appetizing. But keto is like, I can still have, I can have like still have like delicious chicken and some vegetables and things. Like it's still really good. So it was just really effective for me personally. And just like these other things, like I tried it, not only was it helpful in having me lose a lot of weight, but also like I was having a lot more energy, more focus, happier. Like some of these things were just working a lot better for me. So it's something that I have stuck with. I went during the pandemic, I guess right before the pandemic hit, I went actually vegetarian for about 8 months. So vegetarian plus keto, which I've nicknamed the veto diet, both from the combination of vegetarian and keto, but also because you have to pretty much veto every single food option that you can have. I couldn't really keep strict keto, and I don't keep super strict keto right now because I'm not trying to lose weight, really, just trying to maintain it. But that was really hard because I just have to eat so many vegetables, and there's a lot of carbs in certain vegetables. So I was not quite staying on it. I think I would like to be vegetarian sometime in the future, just for moral and somewhat health reasons. But after about 8 months, I started having meat again.
Yeah. That's great. And Mark Brown was talking a lot about sugar addiction when he came on the show, and he showed us some of the things he makes, which is sort of from rice flour and bananas. Obviously, he uses a lot of food that would otherwise go to waste, and obviously feeds a lot of people. And I think we do need to move on from this sugar addiction, like you said. I think that's
The
very
sugar is
important.
the biggest part. I think like
Yeah,
my choices are extreme. But I think that like what a lot of people could benefit from is just eliminating a lot of the excess sugars
yeah,
in their life. And I think that they'd be surprised how much better they feel and how much better their lives are in many ways. And it's interesting. That's just the way addictions work. Is like somewhere in our brains we're thinking like I'm going to be so much happier if I can just have this sugary thing. But it's like
it's almost like being naughty, isn't it? Like, like a kid's always trying to get the next sweet or something like that. And I think that's part of it in the brain as well. I think.
maybe I think that also and we don't need to go on a tangent about it, but yeah, my favorite book on meditation is Why Buddhism is True: The Science and Philosophy of Meditation and Enlightenment. And he talks about the example of a sugar donut and how basically evolution and our biology have tricked us into the reality of that powdered donut. That basically, when we see that, we instantly, most people that like sugar donuts, they want to eat it, but they don't think about three things. And one of them is that they think it's going to be the best thing in the world basically when they have it. But science actually shows that our dopamine spikes right before we have it more than when we're actually having it. It's basically the anticipation. The idea of having it is more exciting than actually having it. Number two, we think that it's going to last forever. Some part of us is like, okay, if I can just have one donut, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be happy, for the rest of the day even, like, and I'm not, but no, it's like it wears off. You're going to want another one.
Crash.
You're going to cry. Yeah. And then that's the third, maybe there's four things. The third one is that, you're going to crash. Yeah. Is that, you're going to feel way worse, after you have it. You don't think about that. And I think that our biology, it's designed to be that way actually. So to keep back when our biology was developing, to go and just be finding sugar sources and to not think about, what any consequences might be. And then the fourth is like, the negative sides of it, like it'll make you gain weight or, those things. Like basically we're not thinking about any of those things, nor are we designed to think about those things. We just go and have that donut. So I think that's one of the many areas where meditation can be really effective, is that you can become a little bit more aware of some of those elements where it's like that we can be blind to just by kind of following our biology.
Yeah. An interesting quote there from Sunny Delight. Study conducted by the University of Bordeaux found that refined sugar was 4 times more addictive than cocaine.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Great. Right. Probably got 2 more areas to sort of cover. The last one will be some songs that you've chosen. Before that, though, let's talk about Funklectic.
Oh, yeah.
So where did the idea come from? Obviously, it's now episode 90, show 90 this week, something like that. 91.
91 will be this upcoming Friday. So we just did volume 90 with featuring Mark Brand on Friday.
Yeah. So where did the idea come from you? How did it come about? And give us some of the guests and some of the highlights that you've had over the last probably 18 months now, 2 years almost.
Yeah,
almost 2 years.
Yeah, we're a few months out on Funklectic volume 100, which will be basically 2 years, a little less than 2 years. So it was over the summer when I was starting to get on Twitch, and I was thinking about doing a weekly show. I was thinking on Fridays about doing a weekly show. I think I'd seen a couple other people do some events where it was like not just one person DJing. And this is before I didn't know anything about raid trains or any of that kind of stuff. But just this idea of like playing together, of like playing as a group. And so something about that I think was really interesting to me. And I just decided to do an event one Friday. It didn't think about doing it necessarily as a series at first. I was like, okay, I'm going to create a show for this Friday. I had, and I brought on my friend Funkmaster Fletch from Pittsburgh. as well as DJ Tanner. So DJ Tanner, I had
Yeah.
recently convinced to get on Twitch. Just knowing that, like, I think part of my original excitement, you know, in general, of course, was about AV stuff. So doing video DJing. So I really wanted to work with other video DJ people. And I've known Tanner for about a decade now, over a decade, probably. Same as with Dunks, kind of trading back videos and appreciating each other's work. And so I had him in mind, you know, I think when I was starting to get on Twitch, of like, and I told him, you know, you really got to get set up on Twitch. And he did. We helped work through some growing pains, and we got I think we did one other event before Funklectic. We did something called Turnt Tables. And then the week after that, I think I set up the Funklectic, and very much the idea behind it is obviously, as I talked about before with my musical influence, like funk has always been a big core to all the music that I love the most. But I also really love playing a bunch of different genres in my DJ sets. I pride my sets on that, of like not just playing one genre. And so I wanted to create an event that was reflective of that and embrace that, of like, we're not going to just play one genre. So eclectic, I think I've always loved that word. Definitely describes my musical tastes and DJing style. So yeah, just I think randomly came up with that word Funklectic, and did the first show, went great. And then right after that, I was thinking about continuing it and bringing on other guests. Quickly, I think I had met DJ Aiden Scott right around that time, and invited him to come on the show. I think he was at Funklectic 3 maybe. And then it went international very quickly after that, just on a whim. And I think that's been the case through much of Funklectic. It's like just shooting my shot. Just like, there's no harm in asking somebody if they wanna come play. Worst is they'll say no. So DJ B-Side, who I had been making some music videos for since like 2013, and we knew each other a little bit, was, you know, in some of his streams to say, hey, do you want to come on Funklectic sometime? He was just like instantly, yeah. He just said instantly that he would do it. I hadn't thought about how the time difference was going to work, because Funklectic was like a Friday night thing, and B-Side was in the UK. So I kind of had to figure that out. And basically the answer was having the UK act play Saturday morning, and basically playing and then having me play basically all through the night until the UK wakes up. And so that became kind of the tradition, and then expanded, basically getting a different UK artist on every week. Had DJ Candyman on after that, also DJ Octo from Thailand, and started getting, I think bigger and bigger names. We got Buck Rogers, I think, on Funklectic 9, something like that. It was one of the first really big shows, and it became I think a really nice place for a lot of us, especially what would become the global funk fam, to all kind of be together on these Friday nights, and to introduce to new DJs and to hang out. And it just kept it going. And Funklectic Volume 50 was it still remains, by far the biggest show. We've had some really nice names on Funklectic over the last 2 years, but Funklectic Volume 50 had Crafty Cuts, the Funk Hunters, Father Funk, Sticky Buds, who came out of a streaming retirement. Both Sticky Buds and Crafty Cuts came out of streaming retirements to come back and play for it. Had the Allergies and the Gaff. Hong Kong Ping Pong. One big thing that I'm missing, Fort Knox 5, who I'd started to get to know a little bit over Twitch. But he was playing on Friday nights also, and so it had started to become a little thing where people were kind of thinking about, you know, whether to go to Funklectic or go to Fort Knox 5. And so I just reached out to Steve and said, hey, why don't you come and play Funklectic every Friday, and you'll just be part of it. And that turned out, I think, to be a really, really big part of Funklectic expanding to get somebody of Fort Knox 5's caliber basically on there.
And again, it's the collaboration on Twitch. You know, in a different world, in a different environment, in the real life, it might have been like, well, no, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing. Let's compete rather than collaborate. And Twitch brings everyone together, and you know, it's amazing.
And that's where I think it is the best thing to embrace. And when I talk about the mudita thing on my channel, the sympathetic joy and like being happy for other people and collaborating with other people, everybody follow everybody, all of that ethos. Some of I think my favorite people and some of the people that have been the most helpful in whatever success I've had on Twitch are the people that are just out there helping people. They're just out there supporting to support. They're not looking to get anything back from it. They're just supporting each other. So a couple people, Canadian Breaking, who I've talked about, he is basically my biggest hype man, helping me like plan different events and create commands on my channel and create memes and all sorts of things like that. Dom Marable was another big one. Both of them were they really believed in what I was doing and really had my back. I think those kinds of things is also why I felt comfortable leaving Facebook, of having people like that I think were saw that there was something special in their eyes. So I think that kind of thing is just everything on Twitch. And that's what I think Funklectic, what I try and do is bring lots of different DJs on there to expose different DJs to our community and to give a platform to people that might not are just getting started on Twitch and all that kind of stuff. And that's just it's a little bit of work, every week, and can be a bit frantic, like trying to hear back from certain people and get the schedules right. But it's all worth it 10 out of 10 times. Like I've connected to so many people, including yourself. I would not be here.
Exactly.
Funklectic is a big part of, I think, us becoming friends. And the cool thing with Fort Knox 5 and Steve Raskin, him playing, I think he's done 30 or 40 of the Funklectics so far, but I got to, they flew me out to Denver in October of 2021 to go and open up for Fort Knox 5. It's my first show since COVID. Got to play with him and Bobby C Sound TV and Queued Up and who Everyman MC. Just absolutely amazing, which would not have happened without Funklectic and Twitch and all these things. And the other things I'm doing, a music festival in August, Soul Tribe Music Festival. Was booked to play a few other things in Calgary that got canceled because of COVID, but very interesting to see like all the opportunities that Twitch has provided, really creating a global audience and community.
It's amazing what's coming out of it. We've just started. We've had a couple of events, but this weekend in London, in King's Cross, we've got I think 14 of the 45ers, 45 Kings, Queens, and we're just all hanging out in a pub in King's Cross in London, and we're all just going to play 30-minute sets to each other. And again, that wouldn't have happened without Twitch, but it's nice that we're now able to sort of do that in real life. And then the following week we take it to Edinburgh, and then starting to do it across the world. And it's amazing what's coming out of it.
And it's just getting started. That's the exciting part that I talk about often is like still most of the people in the world have no idea what Twitch is. They have no freaking clue. And anybody that does know, they know it just in the gaming context. Like it is literally just getting started. And that's really exciting. Unless, there is still a chance that the copyright for the DJ.
They keep sending the odd email out, don't they?
And if it happens, it happens. But I think either way, and that's the nice thing. Like even if that does happen, we're still all connected to each other through Facebook and Discord and different places. Like we're gonna still be working together. But there's so much room to grow.
I asked Sam this because, again, he was on the show a little while ago, and I asked him, where do you think it is going? And he gave me some ideas of what he thinks. So, where do you see Twitch and the streams you're doing and the events you're doing in, say, a year or a couple of years' time? Where can you take it next?
Yeah, so what I was talking about a bit earlier is I do get this question sometimes. I guess like I don't need it to go anywhere. Like I basically I'm so happy with where it's at right now. Like I am so ridiculously happy with the platform and with exactly what I'm doing. I've never been more creatively fulfilled in my life. Where do I see Twitch going? So like for my channel specifically, I think is doing more and more experimentation. I think that's something that's been really exciting on my channel. Is like I think the longer it's gone, the more like different types of themed shows that I've been doing. So I do all animated shows, my movie and TV show trivia shows that I think I've done 10 of so far. Might be the most popular thing that I do on Twitch, where basically I play all movie and TV show sample music videos.
Yeah.
And the first person that can guess the full correct title of the movie or TV show in the chat gets a point. And those points go towards actually some pretty cool prizes. Basically, the first and second place on the day get to pick any movie, TV show, or animation. And I'm going to make a music video sampling that property that gets dedicated to that person forever. So that's like it takes a while, as we were talking about before, it takes a while to make the music videos. That's something that I think is really...
it's the interaction, isn't it?
It's the interaction.
And that brings us on to, because we haven't mentioned it yet, but March Madness.
Yes, exactly. So that's part of my intro, I think, at least for my channel. It's like I want to continue to expand on all these different types of shows, like each different one that I do. And particularly the ones that have some interactivity, I think are really fun. The meditation streams, doing more things like that, basically things that are more purpose driven. So I think definitely continuing expanding on those meditation. I've talked about I'm going to be doing those at least once or twice a month. But then like what other similar types of shows can I do? Maybe one's about exercise and sleep. One's about maybe it's like general purpose. And so those things we were talking about before, kind of like related to my leaving Facebook and how other people can, I don't know, potentially go in a similar direction in their lives. Definitely lots of potential ways, but just like things that are doing shows that are more than just about music, more about discussion and hopefully making people's lives better. So as part of my answer there. But yeah, Maculate March Madness, one of the really fun and exciting themes that I do on my channel. Basically, it's an annual event. Canadian Breaking came up with this idea last year, where he selected 64 of the best Maculate music videos that were created before 2021. And basically, just like March Madness and college basketball, there's a whole bracket, and basically videos go head to head, and the chat votes on which videos move on until a champion is crowned. And I think honestly, like when I first heard about the concept, I'm like, this is going to be a lot of extra work for me. Like, I need that time to like make my music videos. Normally it's like, is this real? Like how is this going to be like that positive an experience? But it turned out to be like one of the most fun things of the year, like so much engagement. And this is actually right when I was starting to do my partner push. And I think that like the numbers, partially, I think because of March Madness, like people were so excited about this idea. And I think part of it is the interactivity, and the discussions and all of people's different ideas of like why they like certain videos over the others. But yeah, the interactivity, I think, is a common theme for Maculate March Madness, for my movie trivia shows. And also I started doing Maculate Music Television Total Request Live request shows. I think I've done like 3 of those at this point. Same reason, basically allow people to pick any my videos, any artist, any like genres. I even expanded in the last one. It's like you can pick a random object or a random idea, and I'm going to try and come up with a music video that fits that.
Yeah.
So initially you're thinking like request shows, like that can't be that fun, but like there's something about the interactivity and like the challenge for me of like taking all of these inputs and finding videos that match them and how to mix everything together. Probably my most challenging show actually that I've done. But just so much fun. I think it's the interactivity. It's this like collaborative nature. There's something really special with that. So I think that's also the answer of like, where is Twitch going for us? I think more interactivity in every way. That's part of what makes Twitch so special, and like not better than DJing at a club or other places, but just different. There's very different opportunities,
closer
in really wonderful ways.
Yeah, it's a closer connection, isn't it, with a perhaps a smaller or more relatable people in the chat. That's the thing. You go to a club and there might be like 100, 200,000 people. You're only really going to properly interact with a few of those people.
Exactly.
Whereas in your chat, you know most of the people already. There's new people come in. You make new friends and new followers, and it's that interaction. And I think that that's definitely what
it is everything. But Maculate March Madness, we started with 128 this year because last year was the first year that I was ever doing this really full time.
Yeah.
And I just went gangbusters and made hundreds and hundreds of music videos last year. So rather than starting with 64, we started with 128. We've gone through 2 rounds so far. So we went to 128 to 64. Now we're down to 32. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT. We're going to go from 32 to 16. And then there will be 2 more shows after that, probably on the following Wednesdays. One where we go from 16 to 8 and then 8 to 4 in that same show. And then the finals, which will be 4 to 2 and 2 to the champion. So last year at the finals, the finals was between Next Men video for their Talking Heads remix, Psycho Faith, versus a Crafty Cuts video for Boom. And for the finals last year, both Crafty Cuts and Next Men were in the chat for the finals. It was so exciting, like came right down to the end, and Next Men ended up winning. And so, definitely come check it out if you're able to. It's really quite a lot of fun, but it's also really heartbreaking. I think maybe particularly this year because I made so many videos. So there's so many like favorites from people that are just getting cut out basically every round. Yeah. There was a typo from Jamlaw, one of our community members, and she wrote March Sadness instead of March Madness by accident. And that's basically what it is. It is March Sadness. I said on my stream today, it's like, it is just like the yin yang on my shirt. This is the fun part of March Madness. This is the sadness part of March Madness. It's about equal parts of both, but it's really, really fun.
But yeah, it's these sort of interactive and interesting shows and switching it up and doing different things. That's what Twitch allows us to do, I think. Brilliant. Let's move on to the last section. Normally, people who come on the show are 45s DJs, so I get them to choose 3 45s that lift their spirits. It's a question that Mark Lancaster asked in the very first show we did of this. Obviously, you don't have vinyl, or you don't have easily available vinyl, but you've chosen 3 tracks that lift your spirits. So what's the first one you've chosen, and why did you choose it?
Yeah. So this is such a hard question in general, but a great one. The first one that I picked, RJD2, Ghostwriter.
Classic,
I think both Ghostwriter and 1976, those 2 songs from RJD2, one of the most influential, I think, for me as a producer and as a DJ. And I think it is a theme in all the 3 songs that I picked. There's this really nice combination of joy, of just pure triumphant joy. But the samples in Ghostwriter, there's just these really subtle vocal kind of I won't mimic the sounds of these really nice vocal samples. and then just the horns that come in, and the way that they come in are built up in their two main sort of drops. One of the most joyful moments, I think, in any song. In fact, I mentioned on my stream earlier today, I have there isn't actually any music video for Ghostwriter, which I didn't really think about until being asked this question. So I'm so glad that you do. And I'm like, of course I need to make a music video for Ghostwriter. So it's right at the top of my priority list for this week. In fact, right before the show, I was like going through my videos of like, it's really got to be the perfect choice, but I'm going to find that perfect choice. But yeah, the guitars in the song, everything, just the sample work is about as good as anything, to the point where I remember when I was first along my producing journey, when I was just like, if I can make anything like 10% as good as RJD2, like I will be happy. Just so influential for me. Same for DJ Shadow, who I was playing on the stream today. DJ Shadow and RJD2. Really, really big influences for me.
Yeah, great choice. And number two?
Number two is C2C, The Beat.
Yeah.
So from the French DJ supergroup C2C. And actually very similar to Ghostwriter in some ways, is just so soulful and so happy and exuberant. The scratching on the beat is exceptional, really, really tasteful, of course, as you would expect from the masters C2C. And the vocals that they use for it, can you feel it? There's something about when it kicks in after the buildup. Every time I play it, I'm dancing around like a madman on my stream. And it's one of the tracks in my library where it's like, there's some ones where it's like I want to be careful about not overplaying certain songs, but it's like when I'm going past that in my library, it's like I gotta play it, particularly on my Soul Train sets. Usually I'm every first Tuesday of the month on Soul Train, and I just got to play it. And as an added benefit, the music video, the official music video for it, is just phenomenal. This really great animations of a DJ and some other abstract visuals. So one that, like, unlike Ghostwriter and 1976, which for Ghostwriter, which I will be making a music video, and for the DJ Shadow track, which I think I'll make a different one for. This one already has just a perfect music video that there's no reason for me to make anything for it. It's like super happy playing that one.
That's brilliant. And so our last track, what was the last track you've chosen?
Yeah, so I shifted. I did a audible on this one. So initially, it was Ooh Child, which there's a drum and bass remix of it from Jimmy Needles that I like to end a lot of my sets with. I video DJ'd a house party on Saturday and ended my set with that one. Just super hopeful and happy. So it would have been a fine choice, but I ended up switching, doing an audible to Marvin Gaye's Lovely Day. That huge fan of Marvin Gaye, like my sister Anna is in the chat. And there's a nice balance and message, I think, in the song. The Marvin Gaye is talking about difficulties that he's facing in his life, and when that happens, though, that basically as he's facing those difficulties, then he looks at his love, and everything's all right with the world. And like, there's not more of a hopeful, I think, joyful song than Lovely Day. So filled with sunshine. I think it's about like a theme that we were talking about earlier, gratitude, and despite the difficulties in the world, still finding the many wonderful things that we have in our life, and being joyful and happy for those. And then there's a remix from it that I play, another one that's like really hard for me to pass in my Serato library when I'm going past it. The J-Pod remix of Lovely Day. that I made a music video for, sampling this famous old Disney cartoon with the trees dancing in the forest, and definitely one of my most popular ones, and is in the final 32 for Maculate March Madness 2. I think has a solid chance to win it. So that's my pick.
That's brilliant.
Sorry. Bill Withers. What am I saying?
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Fantastic. I think we're probably there.
I don't know why I said Marvin Gaye. I think I was thinking of picking a Marvin Gaye, and I had written down Marvin Gaye. Thank you, Anna.
It's all right. We got your sister in to keep you in check. It's been brilliant. Let me just set the raid, and then we'll just say our goodbyes, etc. We're going to go and see Don Champ Sound. He's been a bit of an influence for me recently because he plays 45s at 33, and I'm a bit addicted to doing that at the moment. Creates some interesting sounds. But let me set the raid. He was in the chat earlier as well. But yeah, so thank you so much. I've learned a lot of interesting ideas there, and I'm hopefully going to run with a few of those ideas and see where it takes me. But I think certainly the chat enjoyed it as well, and I think hopefully more meditation, more sleep, more exercise, less sugar. I think all of those things are a good thing, and I think even one or two of those is going to make a huge difference to everyone. But
I think starting somewhere, the Atomic Habits talks about you start with a keystone habit, so basically making one change, but sticking to that change every day, and then you can basically form other. It becomes much easier to form other habits around that. It's definitely the case for me.
And I guess, like you say, once you start seeing the effect and the difference it's making to your life, then obviously that keeps you going to think, okay, what can I do next, or where can we go from there?
100%.
But so when can people next catch you? Is it Wednesday for March Madness?
Wednesday for Maculate March Madness, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT.
And then Funkalectic this Friday.
Funkalectic every Friday. Working on the lineup. When I'm playing is variable. But yeah, I play every Sunday and Wednesday at that same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Currently 5 p.m. GMT, but usually it's 6 p.m. GMT once the time changes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think we've raided out.
We have.
Thank you very much. And let me just end the broadcast.